is the most premium quality auto refinishing solution you will ever need.
We are now implemented all the prior actions, and we are stand ready to adopt the IMF program. I think we hope that that will happen soon, and they will be hopefully within this month.
Presenting its monetary policy review on Friday, Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Weerasinghe said that Sri Lanka stands ready to unlock the International Monetary Fund program this month. Addressing the media, Dr. Weerasinghe said, "We have now completed all the required prior actions with the IMF and stand ready to unlock the IMF program, hopefully this month." Meanwhile, the CBSL has decided to increase the standing deposit facility rate and the standing lending facility rate by 100 basis points to 15.50% and 16.50%, respectively, with effect from the close of business today.
First of all, as you already know, Monetary Board decided to raise policy interest rates by 100 basis points with effect from, I think, today. So decision was based on several factors. First, if you can remember, mainly when we negotiated the staff level agreement with the IMF back in, I think, 1st of September, we finalized the agreement. At that point, we had inflation projections and outlook from both the IMF and the central bank. We obviously had projections can vary depending on the models or the methods that we use. IMF always had inflation path at that time, which path was much higher than what we had. But somehow that time, because projections, that time we were basically hoping we would get the IMF program unlocked somewhere in December. And NDA inflation target at that time, the IMF was, I think, 70%, and we had a little lower, but somewhere closer at that point. And that's where we raised, policy raised, I think, 100 basis points. In July, we raised 100 basis points, and we basically had an understanding to raise by another higher amount of tightening in terms of policy rates, depending on the inflation outlook and the actual outlook that was going to happen in the next couple of months. What we saw from that point onwards, inflation was, in fact, contrary to the IMF projections, and we already saw inflation peak at 70% somewhere in, I think, September, and thereafter disinflation process continue and still continuing up to this point. And then as a result, we continue to discuss with the IMF, and then we revise both IMF and the central bank revise our predictions based on the actual data as well as outlook based on the information that both are having. There are still, IMF predictions are still higher than what we think the inflation is going to be by end of this year and next year. This year, when you're going to see the IMF predictions, when the program is basically implemented and the documents are out, you're going to see their predictions, inflation are at a higher path, trajectory is higher than our path. But predictions are basically predictions. No one can say with certainty this will be this prediction, but we are confident that our projections would be much more closer based on the experience. Last couple of months, our projections are much closer to the actuals. On that basis, and also the fact that we are now implement all the prior actions. This was the one prior action which was left because they were uncertain on inflation projections. So now we are come to almost close to implementing the IMF program. And for us to be able to move forward, we basically had to reach a consensus with the IMF and us on what is the required adjustment of policy rates compared to what we agreed earlier. So I think earlier we agreed to about the consensus was to increase by 250 basis points, but somehow we both agreed that path is going to be much faster. As a result, we agreed that we will raise by 100 basis points. The policy rates will be raised by 100 basis points today. As a result, we took that decision today. We raised policy rates by 100 basis points. So that one important part is that with that, we are now implemented all the prior actions, and we are stand ready to adopt the IMF program. I think we hope that that will happen soon, and there will be hopefully within this month. And with that, we can move forward and make another good progress in that process, IMF program outlook, and also the debt tracking process going forward. And also, other fact that we want to share is that going forward, the forward guidance on the interest rates, but from our side, what we expect, when you look at this chart on the inflation, the policy rates, and also the market interest rates, this is an unusual situation where you can see the huge gap between the market rates and the policy rates. And that, in fact, there was a peak about a month or so ago. It was that there was a peak of market interest rates. There was a wide, the biggest gap between policy rates and market rates, the highest one being treasury bill rates, and then AWPLR, key prime lending rate, and then other rates. There was a continuous, basically downward trend, and the uncertain premium what we see, why it is there, because the uncertainty on the IMF program as well as uncertainty on the debt restructuring. That's why we see there's a gap there. Because treasury bill rates were moving very high. As a result, benchmark rate was moving high. Market rates, both deposit rates and lending rates market rates were also moving higher than the policy rates. So that's a unusual situation in this kind of uncertain time. That's where we see. But what we are seeing going forward, although we have raised policy rates by 100 basis points today, what we expect, this gap between the policy rates and market rates, we would expect that gap should be, reducing, and we would hope that there will be a convergence between the policy rates and the market rates going forward, and where we think this market rates, the declining trend would continue for several reasons. First, basically, once you unlock the IMF program, there will be more foreign exchange flows coming in. Already we are seeing a very good developments in the forex market in terms of liquidity and the exchange rate. That we hope will continue. That will help the disinflation process faster. And also once we move into the next step of debt restructuring, that will help us to reduce this uncertain premium further. This way, I think what we are hoping here is that although we raise policy rates by 100 basis points, we would expect this gap between the policy rates and market rates would be reducing, and rates would be converging under normal circumstances. If you look at the next chart, under normal circumstances, if you look at historically how rates should behave, the policy rates and the market rates, you can see usually in tightening cycles, market rates should follow and then falling back to closer to the our policy rates, the band. That's a usual interest rate cycle. But the recent cycle, the gap has widened significantly because of the uncertain premium. But we expect this gap would still be gap would be closing going forward, despite the fact that we raised 500 basis points today, with the confidence improving and with much more liquidity coming into the market, especially with the foreign exchange situation improving, we would be basically providing more liquidity into the market through foreign exchange purchases that we have seen already happening in the market. I share that information later. So this is what we expect.
For more latest news, subscribe to FTTV.